Okay, we're back again, and I have been leaving this very late because unlike the last set, I wasn't like ahead and went and printed proxies and everything. So getting ahead on like seeing what the decks are going to be like is something that I just haven't done this set. Granted, I also wasn't like super keen on all the new decks. I was more so just keen on the starters and like the support. So today we will be diving into that deck that did get support, and that is Kidku. But just before we start, I want to give a big shout out to everyone. You guys have absolutely been blowing up the like and subscribe button lately. It's so good to see. I'm on this mad grind that all I want to do at the moment is actually make content. Normally, when I'm trying to make content, I just sort of wait until I have time to do it. But I'm at a stage at the moment where I'm just making time to do it. So for me, it's a real positive feeling to have. So big shout out to you all. But if you do enjoy this kind of content, please be sure to like and subscribe. Alrighty, so we are over on Eggman Events today, as you will see. Normally, I have been doing these on Deck Planet, but for once, I wanted to give Eggman Events to go. So first off, big shout out to Eggman for having this at our disposal. It is a great tool. I do recommend you guys using Eggman Events if you haven't already. So let's just dive straight into the deck. I won't try and beat around the bush too much. Like I said, I haven't tested these lists very well. This is just like, I was playing some games in my Discord last night, which, quick little plug, if you aren't in my Discord, please do join in. I do tend to do a bit of testing on there, so if you ever want to hop in, see that I'm testing over some webcam games, please be sure to jump in the Discord. Link in the description. So as I was saying, like, I haven't had a chance to fully test this deck, and this is like, I've changed 2 cards in this list since I tested with my list last night. Just 2 things that I felt that I wanted in the deck rather than what I was actually using, because I do get these lists from sort of other places. What I basically do, to put it in a nutshell, I see a list and I'll copy that list. I'll play games with it and then I'll make my adjustments from there. So I always need to find myself a starting point, because as I've said in multiple videos, I am a horrible deck builder, so I really need something that gets me going. So starting off, we have the announcer, and this is an absolute 4 of, and this card is like, I think this card is just absolutely crazy in the deck, because you search so much that you bring up things that you've searched multiple times. So it just searches so much, searches all your pieces. You can't really go wrong with this card. A target for that, and 1-drop removal in general is pretty good because you do have cost reduction. So sometimes you just can minus something to 1, bottom deck it with this. Now this is the Chi-Chi. This is one of the new cards, and a lot of lists outside of this one I have seen are running 4 of this. Now, I definitely can argue that you play 4 of this card, but for me personally, I feel like you can only play this card on your odd energy turns, being turn 1, turn 3, turn 5, and that's mainly just so turn 1, you would be setting up just a filter for your hand. Turn 3, maybe you're setting up a extra card in the drop for the following turn to pick up with Tien, and then turn 5, you're either setting up for another Tien, or you're just getting a bit more draw power. This deck draws so many cards that even at 52 cards, I generally got down to 2 cards in deck in one of my testing games last night. Because we use this other new card, this Son Goku Childhood, and on play, you draw 2 and you discard 2. So this helps set up your filter. Now, I think if you're having to use a lot of Chi-Chis, you're having to use this, because this is like one of your main attackers, you generally do come pretty close to burning through your whole deck. So I just feel like you don't need to use that many Chi-Chis, and sometimes it is kind of awkward because it is discarding an extra card, and for a deck that runs a lot of extra cards, sometimes you just can't remove them. Like, if you've got like 2 cross-arm dives in your hand and you want to play a Chi-Chi, you kind of can't, because cross-arm dive is such a big card for the deck. Sure, you might be planning the following turn to pick it up with a Piccolo, but you might want to use 2 cross-arm dives in 1 turn. So, as you know, Tien can only pick up 1 card, 1 cross-arm dive, because it has to pick up 2 different card names. So yeah, I just feel like Chi-Chi, you can definitely run it at 4, you can argue with me all you want. I will not have any complaints if you said you wanted to run this at 4, and you said I was crazy for only running this at 2. There was probably only 1 instance in all the games that I tested last night where I thought, oh, I could really use Chi-Chi right now, and I charged it because I just wasn't using it. So that's the case. Like, I think this is very situational. Like, it's definitely good to pitch an extra card draw too. Nothing 2 ways about it. I just feel like you only get to play it on your odd turns. My actually feels really good in this deck because of cross arm dive. So like there is instances your opponent has like a 3-drop on board, you can Mai, leader effect, pitch, cross arm dive. Into this, you've removed a 3-cost body, you've got a 10k back to your hand to play out again if you need to, and then you've drawn and discarded 2. Pretty good. Or you can team it really well. So like you can play a Mai, cross arm dive into a Jackie or an Ape, or even an Arm, play the Mai back down, and then if you have the resources available, you can cross arm dive again into the Son Goku. You might have enough energy, you could just play the Son Goku childhood and just remove it that way. So Mai in this deck actually feels crazy. It almost feels like this deck is the deck for Mai. Obviously, like Diamond Vegeta, you could argue, and maybe, I don't know, in the early days, I think Zamasu used to use it, but this card in this deck feels like it is its home. Ramfan, and in the previous set, like I was actually pretty big on this deck, like I even went and got myself an alt leader for it. I really did like this deck. However, there was just like a few things that really didn't feel great. One of them being, of course, Sleepy Boy. And, I looked at this Ramfan and I originally had it in when I first tested the deck, and I took it out because I just thought, oh, it is what it is. But in one of my testing games, this thing lived for a few turns, and oh my word, does it pump out value if this thing lives. Like, I think I had a turn where I played a Mai, I bounced a Mai, I played another Mai, and I had a Ramfan, so I negged 3 costs there, and I think I might have just been able to remove, I think it was a 5 cost? I'm pretty sure I like hooked it together. I was able to remove a 5 cost with this Goku off a cross arm dive. So if Ramfan actually lives, this card generates so much value just because of the cost reduction. Because it is like so value, you could actually argue running more copies of it, or maybe, you know, swap the ratios with Mai. Maybe you just play 4 Mai if you really want to, but I just think that you have to give this Ramfan a chance. Now, next up is Nam, and Nam is kind of like, it's probably going to be the first card to go, but in my testing last night, I was in stages where I kind of really wanted to draw, and the Ape doesn't do anything until it's KO'd, besides provide a 25k body. I felt like in the situations I was in, I would rather play a 20k body and get a draw, rather than just get a 25k body that's gonna get me something back if it's KO'd, because the KO could be like a 50-50. Like if you're playing against yellow, they could just lock it. You can't bounce it with cross arm dive because it's a 4 cost. See, I just thought it was just, I didn't know if I liked playing 4 of the Ape, so I want to try 2 of the Nam, but I definitely think that this card would probably be the first card to go on my list. Next up is, of course, Jackie, and this is like Blue's SCR from Black. This card, at the end of the turn, if you've used an extra, you draw a card. And there is, like, you can get this out turn 2 and just start drawing cards. And if you're playing against a deck that just can't answer 3 costs on curve, or you're playing against yellow that just lock it, this card gets you a lot of value, which can be a little bit of a problem. Like I did say, you draw a lot of cards, so you can come close to decking yourself out. So, and it's not like an optional thing. So if you stick Jackie late game and your deck is running thin, you kind of have to do something about it, because it will unconditionally draw you a card. Next up is this card, of course, and I really do like this card. Like, it just does so much. Bottom decks a 2 cost, puts it at the bottom, draws 2, discards 2, and then when it attacks, it adds a life. So it helps you self-awaken. Granted, it does actually have to be attacking, so if you're trying to play that starve game early on, it's not always the greatest to go into this because you don't take a life that turn, whereas like a Jackie or a Nam can get that done for you. Now the Great Ape, like I said, I'm a little bit like torn on this Great Ape at the moment. Maybe it's just a me thing, like I haven't played against decks that are going to KO it, so it's a bit hard to see just how good the value of this adding a 3 cost back to hand or not is. But I mean, you know, it's another 3 for 25 that can be played off cross arm dive, so you really can't go wrong with it at the end. Now next up is Tien, and I feel like I don't know what the right number for Tien feels. I personally feel like I want to run it at 4, but being a 0 and 4 energy, it kind of makes it hard, and it's always the case that I run into with cards like this, where I can't decide if I want to run 3 or 4 of them, because sometimes it is really important to just be able to pick up 2 extra cards, because you can discard one for leader effect and then do another skill, of course. So yeah, Tien is kind of a real sticky one for me, and with the promo being available at some point, I do think I would actually want to fit that promo in, because it does allow you to free play, so free play is always good in this game. So I don't know how that's going to work around this build that I currently have, but I think I would like to try and fit in the promo. Next up, of course, is our SCR, and this card, this double strike card, is probably the only double strike in the game that you just feel like dropping on 5 energy, just because of its effect that you get to activate something for free twice. So like on 5 energy, you can swing a 35k double and then swing 2 like 25ks if you've got a body on the board that you can bounce back and play like 2 cross arm dives. Or like for a game finisher, it is absolutely insane because you pair it with scissors, paper, rock, you get draw 2 cards, you get 50k power. That is a big game ender. 2 Zeno because sometimes we just need to use Zeno. Super combo, I've actually gone with launch because it is a alt in the manga booster, so I kind of wanted to, the fact that I got a case for the manga booster, I just wanted to use the pretty looking shiny cards, so we're using launch. As I said, scissors, paper, rock, 2 of there, cross arm dive, the absolute engine of the deck. A lot of things happen with this card, and you really do need this card. I had a game where I actually bricked this card for a few turns, and it just did not go very well for me. Kamehameha Full Power is actually a card that I did not use at all, but it is like it's basically scissors, paper, rock, but instead of drawing you a card, just bottom decks are 2 or less. So you really can't go wrong with this card, but I did have it at 2, but there was a card that I wanted to fit in just purely on the fact that I just wanted a little bit more cost reduction, and that being Merry-Go-Round Gun. So this one, draw 2, discard 1. I loved this card when I was testing. Also minuses something by 2 for the turn. And now, one of the biggest problems this deck has is Broly. I've been told that you pretty much just scoop against Broly. And now, the old builds of this deck that I had, I was running Absolute Lightning. And look, you can run Absolute Lightning if you want to, just to answer Broly being a bad matchup, or just any big body in general that you think you might use Lightning. But free energy in this deck just feels really, really awkward. You're like usually working in odd numbers, being at 2 and 4, and then your 1s, which you generally play maybe a couple of 1s instead of like a 2 or 3. So paying 3 energy for something in this deck is really kind of awkward at times. So I can understand why people just don't run it. But when I was running Lightning, Broly wasn't really a problem for me. And from what I've had, the discussions that I've seen in the Discord about this deck is that it just loses to Broly. So my theory is running this. Yes, it is only 1, so it is hard to find, but if it is the matchup where you are playing Broly, you do filter your deck a lot that you can just hang on to this card. Now this card minuses the Broly by 2, being at the 8 cost, so you minus it by 2 to 6, and then you use a Mai, or if you've stuck a Ran fan, boom, it's down to 5, it's in Tri-Beam range. So realistically, for 5 energy, you can remove a Broly. Now, that's not using your leader effect, so you could also do other things as well, but that's generally what you want to do. That can be your turn 5 against Broly to remove their Broly, and then their next Broly, you can just come up with a Zeno, and then just wipe it out. So that basically gives you a way to deal with Broly for 2 turns, while you're just sort of trying to kill them, and you don't really, you do use your resources, but it's better than just losing to the deck. It's one thing that I kind of don't like is, when people just say, oh, the deck's, unbeatable, you can't beat it as that deck. We're gonna make it work so we can have a chance to beat it. Because often or not, just a few little tech choices can actually really help those hard matchups. Thundershock Surprise, I didn't actually have this card come up because I was just focusing really hard on removal in my testing, so this basically just being a Para Brothers for free and drawing you a card, that's pretty good for me. And of course, the card that really elevated this deck was, of course, Tri-Beam. Now, the main removal that come with the deck was Sleepy Boy, and Sleepy Boy, on paper, didn't look too bad, but it was actually really hard, really hard to make it work. You could end up with a big hand, and then you use a Sleepy Boy in 1 turn, and it basically gets rid of 3 cards. So if you're discarding for leader effect, using the Sleepy Boy, and then discarding for Sleepy Boy, just to KO a total cost of 5, bottom deck a total cost of 5, it really did tax your hand. And the one thing that I felt, this deck could get a massive hand, but it would deplete so fast that is not funny. So this, of course, just deals with any 5 cost, and 2 costs, 2 energy to deal with a 5 cost is pretty good. Or even for free is absolutely nuts. But of course, that is what my day 1 list is looking like for this Kidku deck. I am very excited to see what I can do with this deck. Let me know in the comments, what deck are you guys most excited to get to when the client comes online in a few days' time. But as always, appreciate your support, and we'll catch you on another one soon.